This video is going to be a bit different than the others you're going to see coming out talking about this movie. This is not a review. Rather, this is a bit of commentary on all of the other people who are going to review this film and the people who have been talking about it in the lead-up of the release of this new James Gunn Superman. See, in the lead-up to the release of this movie, James Gunn made some statements that got him into some, we'll say, social media hot water with the film reviewers and sort of nerd content absorbers on the YouTube platform. This was regarding his statements about Superman being an immigrant and some of the political themes that his film would take on.
It is exactly what the movie is about, I think, that, like, we support our people, you know? We love our immigrants. Yes, Superman is an immigrant, and yes, the people that we support in this country are immigrants, and if you don't like that, then you're not American.
You said it's an immigrant story. It's a political movie. MAGA today is going nuts. What do you have to say to MAGA?
I don't have anything. I think this movie's for everybody. I don't have anything to say to anybody. Like, I'm not here to judge people, you know. I think this is a movie about kindness, and I think that's something everyone can relate to.
How many Supermans do you have in your head? How many Superman movies?
I have them all, but I really am from the comics, you know? So for me, this is the most comic book movie I've ever made by far. Maybe the first real comic book movie I've made, because I really am influenced by the comics, and I wanted to have people experience the joy I felt when I was reading comic books as a kid in this movie.
And it spurred the people that I always see on the internet react to these things like Nerdrotic, Geeks and Gamers, Yellow Flash, all of the usual suspects making videos talking about it on stream and so forth.
Up in the sky, look! It's a bird! It's a plane! It's Superman!
I saw the clip and it made me think, okay, crypto is going to ruin this film, definitely.
And I think everybody could have predicted that the sort of content machine would fire up around Superman. Obviously, it's a pretty big media empire, and so people talking about it will get them views, and it's also something that lots of nerds and geeks care about, so it makes sense that people are going to cover a big new film coming out in the franchise. But I believe that James Gunn played these people, and I think he did so quite eloquently. James Gunn is familiar with the YouTube world and the content that will be made around him. He's also familiar with these specific content creators, we know. So I was interested to see what was going to come of the reactions to his statements, and of course as they rolled in, they were about what I thought they would be. People also attacked the trailer on the basis of Superman appearing to be too emotional. I, for one, watched the trailer and had some slight issue with the emotion shown, but for the most part I actually enjoyed the trailer, and I was kind of excited to see a Superman movie in general that seemed a bit more colorful than the stuff that we had gotten in the recent past. Now, the reason I say this video is different is because I have not watched Superman. I live in a small town in Alaska, and so the ability for me to go see a movie premiere is about 150 miles. It's not something I'm going to go do, especially not for a superhero movie. So, like so many other Americans, I will wait for this to come out on streaming or for a torrent to exist. But I went ahead and watched some reviews and listened to some reviews and read some reviews, and what I've come away from is exactly what I thought is the case. James Gunn sort of played these people. The politics in the movie is more of a moral quandary, from my understanding, which is exactly what was said to be the case in some of the interviews, although I think James Gunn knowingly played up on the political angle. I think many of the political sort of arguments being made in the film are actually more so around war and conflict than they are other things, and I think that was made evident in the trailer. I think a lot of people just missed it because they wanted to whine about other things. Ultimately, I think James Gunn knew what he was doing. I think he got the internet talking about his film, and I think ultimately this movie is going to be successful. I think a lot of people are going to see it. I think it's going to make money, and I think DC needs it to make money because ultimately this is supposed to kick off sort of the new DC universe. One of the points that I had made previously in a discussion with people is that they didn't really need this movie to be a home run. They just need it to be good and to be seen as good enough, because ultimately that will be enough to reboot the new universe that they're going for. Which makes perfect sense to me why they went with James Gunn, because he has somewhat of a proven track record, at least with some films. I think James Gunn took it upon himself to start a little bit of drama by making the statements that he did, and by talking about it, he would get all the pop culture YouTubers riled up about the release of the new film. They all watched the trailers on their shows, they all talked about it multiple times. In my opinion, that played right into Gunn's hand. So he knew, regardless of how political the movie was, all he had to do was make some statements and it would rile them up, they would make content about it, and Bob's your uncle. James would, of course, know that the movie was going to be seen as at least somewhat successful, and so this would make all of them look kind of stupid. And from what I've seen in the reviews that are online, as well as things like Rotten Tomatoes, it appears to be that's the case. I wouldn't be surprised if we see this happen more in the future from directors, where they make statements they know will rile people up, even though they know those statements don't really apply to the things they're releasing, because ultimately, with the way that the pop culture vultures exist within the sort of social media landscape, they know that those people will sort of jump on top of it like a dog pile, ultimately boosting whatever it is they want to put out there. And it doesn't mean that people have to pay to actually go see these things, even if people are ripping these online or not paying to go see them in the movie theaters or through streaming. It doesn't really matter because ultimately they're all still talking about it, therefore giving it free marketing. Now all these YouTubers and people who talk about these films and stuff, now all these YouTubers who talk about the pop culture / political implications of all these films will rush to make their reviews, and some of them will either eat crow in regards to their previous statements about the political statements being made by James Gunn, or they won't. It doesn't really matter to me. I just find it funny that the whole thing exists in the first place. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace.
I saw the clip and it made me think, okay, crypto is going to ruin this film, definitely.